Good night of Shabbos, everyone. This Shabbos is Shabbos Pashas Chukas Balak. Also Yud Beis Tammuz this Shabbos. There's many lessons in Pasha of Chukas and Balak. There's many lessons learned from Yud Beis Tammuz. Just to focus on a few, we know that Yud Beis Tammuz celebrates the Fidik Rebbe's Mesiras Nefesh, standing against the regime that was ruling Russia at that time to spread Yiddishkeit. What is the lesson for us today? We're not affected by that regime anymore, and we're living in free countries. We don't have the same type of test and challenge that was in the times of communist Russia. But nevertheless, the Rebbe pointed out a few things that are applicable to us in a very real way, and that we could learn a strong lesson from Yud Beis Tammuz. First of all, today we have peer pressure. Beginning of Shulchan Aruch, the Rebbe focuses on the teaching in Pirkei Avos that a person should not be embarrassed from those people that laugh at him in serving Hashem. Because even if a person is living in a free country, it could sometimes be his very own family, his very own friends, that he's afraid to do anything which might make them make a comment or tell him that he's acting too holy, too religious. And this itself is a pressure that is affecting his service of the Eibishter. The same thing, and the same in a more broader sense, we have the idea of a person that feels that nature, the way of life, the way things have to happen in this world, could sometimes challenge his connection to the Eibishter, could sometimes challenge his efforts in Avodas Hashem. A person has a business deal, a very promising business deal, and he also has to daven with a minyan, and the question is, how much money would he make on the business deal that would be worth it for him to question if he should daven with the minyan? It becomes a challenge. What overrides what? So these might not present themselves as, regimes that are persecuting a person from serving the Eibishter, but in essence it's all the same thing. The question is, if we give credibility to Darchei HaTeva, if we give credibility to our surroundings, to our people, to the way of nature, and that takes us away from our Avodas Hashem, or is our connection with Hashem so deep-rooted within us and our belief that everything comes from the Eibishter and the Eibishter runs everything, that we're not afraid of what people say, we're not intimidated by our surroundings, we don't feel that davening with a minyan or spending time doing a mitzvah will take away from our parnasa. So this is the circumstances might be different, but the essence is the same exact thing, which is what the Fidik Rebbe was focusing on, the idea of Einoid Mulvada. We know that what was unique about the Fidik Rebbe wasn't just that he was ready to give up his life to uphold Yiddishkeit, but he did so in a way that defied all odds intellectually as well. Intellectually, there was plenty of room to question if it was really important, necessary, is it really accomplishing anything, the Mesiras Nefesh that he was having. Furthermore, the Fidik Rebbe writes in his Rishimas HaMaiser, in his description of his arrest, that one of the things that he decided was that he would give absolutely no credibility to the guards, to the people that were trying to subjugate him in prison. This wasn't just regarding serving the Eibishter, but in general, he made a decision in his soul that in his eyes they're going to be completely like nothing. And he physically was beaten up for that a number of times. He suffered from it, but that was his decision, that the people that are trying to crush his connection to the Eibishter don't exist. And the Rebbe writes in a letter that the reason why the Fidik Rebbe published this Rishimas HaMaiser, published his personal, description and his feelings that he was going through the arrest, was that we should learn from it. Yes, who are we to compare ourselves to the Fidik Rebbe? But we could connect to it in some way. That when we have things that seem to be contradicting or challenging our Avodas Hashem, it's not just that we fight it and we overcome it and we're able to use some type of rationalization to explain why it's better to serve the Eibishter. But essentially, in order to overcome these challenges, it has to be that a person awakens within himself a connection to the Eibishter which is beyond rationale, which there's no cheshbonos there, there's no calculations, rationalizations. It's just, this is what the Eibishter wants. He sees that everything comes from the Eibishter and it's only about the Eibishter. And this is the lesson from the Shabbos Chukas and Balak, the name Chukas, which represents a choik, a law which is beyond understanding, beyond rationalization. The law of the Para Aduma represents a level of connection that a Yid has with the Eibishter which is beyond intellect, which not only can't be understood, but it seems to defy intellect. And we also know that Chukas simultaneously is connected with the word Chakika. It's engraved. When a person's connection with the Eibishter is something which is added to the person, it's something separate from the person, so then he could, it's limited to the rationale to as much as he's able to grasp it. But when his connection with the Eibishter is engraved with him, this is who he is, at his very core, at his very gut, at his very essence of his soul, then there's no room for rationalization. These things don't affect him. So that's one lesson that we learn from the Frierdiker Rebbe. The same thing as we also learn in the Haftarah of which we have, it's 2-week Pashas, Chukas and Bolak. The Haftarah of Pashas Bolak speaks about the midah of bitachon, of having trust in the Eibishter. And the Rebbe also has a very powerful sikh. It's highlighting the same point, just in a different setting when it comes to having faith in the Eibishter. So again, many times we could be challenged. We know that from one hand the Jew is demanded to do what he could to make a parnasa. He's commanded to do what he could to be successful in this world, and at the same time, the Eibishter wants him to serve the Eibishter. And sometimes the question is where are the red lines? What overrides what? And it could be a very big internal struggle in many cases. What should I daven with a minion? Should I try to make an extra few dollars? Should I maybe say a half a truth in order to do something which might provide me with a little bit more money, etc., etc., or should I stick to what Torah says, you shouldn't lie? And in all these things, the Haftarah teaches us that a person shouldn't trust man, he should trust Hashem. Which the idea of not trusting man doesn't only mean that you know that eventually the Eibush is in charge of everything, but it means that even when you need the help of man, when there's man that's seemingly the messenger from the Eibush to provide for you, nevertheless, you feel that person in of himself has no credibility besides the fact that he's a messenger from the Eibishter. And as such, everything you look at is, what does the Eibishter want from me? The Eibishter wants me to do parnasa. I'm doing it because that's what the Eibishter wants, not because I personally feel this is what I owe my life to. I owe my life to my job. So the same Eibishter wants me to do parnasa, wants me to daven with a minyan. So it's like a religious Jew that would have a struggle. Which mitzvah should I do? So he'll open up the Shulchan Aruch. He'll see what the Shulchan Aruch says. He won't feel stuck. He'll just follow what the Eibishter wants. So if whatever I'm doing in my physical setting isn't because that's what the Eibishter wants, so then he won't have the struggle. The Jew that's living in that mode, he has full trust in the Eibishter, and this is the way he leads his life. So this is one of the things we could learn from Yud Beis Tammuz in our day-to-day life. It's also connected with one of the highlights of this parsha, is the prophecy of Bilam, where he prophesies about Mashiach, how Mashiach will come, and one human being will conquer the whole world. And one of the lessons that it means to us in our Avodas Hashem, the level of Mashiach, is the level of Einoid Mulvade. There's nothing besides the Eibishter. Now, every religious Jew believes in the Eibishter, he knows about the Eibishter, but that his whole life is just based on the belief that everything comes from the Eibishter, and he doesn't see anything else but the Eibishter. We're not living yet on that mode, and then we're working on it. When Mashiach will come, that connection that every single Jew has with the Eibishter will conquer him. The Jew himself will permeate the Jew himself, and his intellect and his emotion will conquer the whole world within the person himself. And that is how Mashiach will be able to conquer the world at large, because within every single Jew, his connection to the Eibishter will conquer his actions, his thought, the way in every single detail of his life. So this is also the connection with Mashiach. And there's a mashal that I heard once, which I think has a very strong point, that there was someone was once observed a father and a son in the car, and he noticed that the father was sitting in the driver's seat, and the son was sitting in the passenger's seat right near the father. And the son, both of them, the father and the son, both had steering wheels, and both were turning the steering wheels as the car was driving, and he was completely flabbergasted. What's going on over here? So the father explained to him that my son insisted that he has to drive the car, but he's too young, he has no idea what he's doing. So what I did is I installed another fake steering wheel on the passenger seat right next to the driver's seat. So the son, as we're driving, he's turning to the right, to the left, and so on and so forth. And he thinks that he's driving the car, but the truth is that I'm the one that's driving the car. And the mashal was that the Eibusher obviously wants us to do our avodah, to do our physical ishtadlus, to try to do what we need to do to earn money, to do physical needs. We have to realize at the end of the day is that the one that's really holding the steering wheel is the Eibusher. We might be turning to the right, to the left, to the center, but at the end of the day, it's coming from the Eibusher. Finish off with one short point regarding Avos Yisrael. There's a pasuk in Pashas Kiseitse that refers back to the story of Bilam. And there's an interesting pasuk. The pasuk says, "V'loyava Hashem alekach lishmoy al Bilam." The Eibusher did not want to listen to Bilam, and the Eibusher turned over a curse into a blessing because Hashem loves you. Which means that the fact that the Eibusher didn't allow Bilam to curse, Bilam's power was that he knew that there was 1 millisecond a day that the Eibusher is angry. And he was able to pinpoint exactly that time, and if he would have said even one negative word about the Jewish people at that point, God forbid, his negative words could have had effect. But the Eibusher decided he's not going to be angry with the Jews during that day, and Bilam had lost his chance. So it says that in this pasuk, there's the Chassidish word, there's 3 levels of Avos Yisrael pointed out. We know that there was 3 Chassidish Rebbes, Tzaddikim, that stood out in their Avos Yisrael, but each one stood out in a very different way. There was Reb Zusha of Anipoli. Reb Zusha of Anipoli was a person that he only saw good in his life. He never saw bad. He never saw bad in his own life. And he also never saw bad in another Jew. Whenever he would see something bad, or it never registered to him, anything bad about another Jew, he never heard, he never saw, it didn't exist. So that's one level of avodah. Hashem didn't want to hear to Bilam. The lesson for us is that when people are saying negative things about other people or whatever, don't go there. Don't dig into it. Stay away from it. Another tzaddik that excelled in Avos Yisrael, which is very famous, is Rabbi Yitzchak of Berditchev. But his level of Avos Yisrael was such that when he saw something negative, he saw things negative. He wasn't on the level that, that whenever there was a negative thing taking place by another Jew, there was a block that he didn't register. He did see negative things, but he had a very unique way of serving the Eibusher and showing his Avos Yisrael that in every negative he would really see a positive. As a famous story that he once saw a Baal Agala wagon owner smearing his wheels for the wagon while he was davening Shachris, wearing talis and tefillin. And a regular guy would say, look at this guy in the middle of davening, this is what he's doing. Rabbi Yitzchak of Berditchev turned it on its head. He tells the Eibusher, look how precious the Jewish people are, that even the wagon driver, while he's smearing the wheels of his wagon, he's davening to you. So he flipped it over on his head. So this is, again, certain tzaddikim had the ability to do this. Sometimes for us it's not so easy, but we should always try, if we do see something negative about another Jew, we should try to be dal l'chav schus, try to find some merit, try to find the positive. Well, this was the level of Rabbi Yitzchak of Berditchev. The third level, which is the ultimate level, the level that the Alter Rebbe highlights in Tanya, Chassidim said is hinted in the third part of the pasuk, Kehevcha Hashem elokech, Hashem loved you. This part of the verse doesn't speak about ignoring the negative, turning the negative into a blessing. It's saying a different point. It's saying that even if you see the negative, you still love the Jew because the Jew essentially is one with the Eibusher, which is the idea that Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya and Perek Lamed Beis, that even a wicked person, and even such a person in those exceptional circumstances, when Torah gives you a license to hate him for the sins that he did, but you still have to love him. You're hating the evil that he has, but the good that he has, which is the real essence of him, you love. You can't hate a Jew. You could hate the negative the Jew has, but even a Jew that seems to be, have so many wrongdoings and so on and so forth, the Avos Yisrael that the Alter Rebbe pointed out, that the Baal Shem Tov pointed out, which is the third level of Avos Yisrael, is that despite everything you see, you still know that you have to love him because he's a Jew. And that's a very powerful lesson that we learned from this episode of Pashas Bilam. And the Eibusher should help that with Shabbos of Chag HaGula, and Bilam speaks about Mashiach, and Bilam, which was the biggest anti-Semite that existed, or one of the biggest anti-Semites that existed, he brought the most beautiful brachas for the Jewish people in the prophecy of Mashiach, which is one of the ideas that all negative things when Mashiach will come, Bilam himself will turn to become the prophet of redemption. All negative things will be transformed to good. So we should have that everything negative in the world should be transformed to good. We should have the coming of Mashiach take off miyad mamish.